Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my thoughts from my recent Hunger Games reread. So as always, grab your beverage of choice and let's get into it. Last week I was on my mini honeymoon. Me and my now husband stayed in a beautiful treehouse in Devon. I'll insert some pictures because I can't even describe to you how stunning this place was. I wish we'd had more time there. We only went for 5 days and I was like, oh, I could stay here for weeks and months probably. It was perfect. And I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to reread one of my favourite books of all time, and that is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I just thought that being in the trees surrounded by nature would be the perfect time to reread this, specifically because the first Hunger Games, when they're actually in the arena, there's a lot of trees and woodland, and Katniss ends up stuck up a tree at one point. There's talk of birds singing, obviously the mockingjay, all that kind of stuff. I just thought this will be an immersive experience, and my goodness, it was. Now, I'm not going to go too much into what the Hunger Games is about because I am 99.9% sure that if you're watching this video, you'll at least have some idea of what the Hunger Games is about, whether you have read the books or seen the films. But basically, it is set in a dystopian universe where these children essentially are reaped every year. 2 children from each district in Panem are chosen at random to compete in the so-called Hunger Games, where they literally battle to the death, leaving only one victor. And this is basically a way for the capital to control the rest of Panem, to instill fear and remind them who's in power and who's in control, basically. Absolutely savage, and when I first read it, I was mind blown. I was like, whoa, this is intense. But also, with the way the world's going right now, doesn't seem that far-fetched anymore. Anyway, I won't get too political, but the first time I read this was about 10 years ago, maybe even more than that. I think I was 20, maybe 21. I know I was definitely in college because I remember reading them on my Kindle, on the train and in the subway on my way to and from college. I absolutely flew through these books. So I'd only ever had them on my Kindle. And then I saw these gorgeous Scholastic special edition copies, and I was like, I have to have them. So I asked for these copies for my Christmas, and I got them that Christmas just there. I'm saying just there as if it was last week. It was in fact 9 months ago, because we're actually closer to 2025 than we are to 2024. When did that happen? Anyway, I digress. Yes, so I got these beautiful copies and they have been sitting, looking at me, staring at me longingly from my shelf. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was a little bit nervous to pick them up again, only because I have grown up. It was over 10 years since I read them. I'm in a very different place in my life now. I thought, am I not going to be able to relate to these as hard? Am I not going to find these as interesting or captivating or enjoyable? And my main worry, because I know the Hunger Games are YA fiction, young adult fiction, I was really worried that they would really read like that and I would end up bored or rolling my eyes or feeling like it was actually a little bit cheesy or cliche upon reflection. But thankfully, this reread completely proved me wrong, because I in no way found that, and actually it has reaffirmed that this is one of my favourite books of all time. I would say my favourite series, but I'm going to reread Catching Fire and Mockingjay as well, before the release of the next instalment that we're getting. Or it's a prequel, so I suppose it's not, but you know what I mean. The next instalment in the series, Sunrise on the Reaping, which I believe that's out next March. I'm sure it's March 2025. We're getting that. So that was kind of my goal, to reread the series before that new book comes out. So once I've reread the whole series, I'll be able to speak more on if it is one of my favourite series of all time. But currently it has reaffirmed that this is one of my favourite books of all time. I think this book is genuinely a masterpiece. I've really never read anything like it. It is so grim and gritty and bleak and savage, and yet also so beautiful and filled with hope, and it says so much about the human condition. I could go on and on. I absolutely love this book. But anyway, I did make some notes for my reread and I thought I'll share them with you now. So these are just observations, things that I noticed upon reading it for a second time with a more adult, mature, womanly perspective. So here we go. I need another sip of coffee before we do this. So the first thing that I noticed when I was rereading The Hunger Games, and this doesn't really matter, but it was just an interesting thing that I noticed. It was mentioned that the Panem, the place where The Hunger Games is set, is what used to be North America. However, it said specifically in this book that the capital was supposed to be in the Rocky Mountains, and District 12, which is where our main characters Katniss and Peeta are from, District 12 was in Appalachia. And I just thought that was really interesting. It doesn't really make much of a difference to the story, I guess, but I just thought it was actually kind of good to give me a bit more of a visual cue on like what the landscape and things would look like. And I also kind of thought, good on Katniss and Gale for hunting in the woods in what is basically Appalachia, because I've heard the stories and I would not be going into those woods, let me tell you. So yeah, that was just a little silly thing that I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But my main takeaway from rereading this book is how well it deals with the subject of mental health. I feel like Suzanne Collins really, she just goes there. She's not afraid, and she really shows lots of different depictions of how people handle grief and trauma. Katniss, I think it's quite evident, although I'm no psychologist, but I think it's quite evident that Katniss suffers from PTSD from her father dying in the coal mines. She frequently dreams about and wakes up in a cold sweat, screams out loud, all that kind of stuff, has flashbacks of explosions and things like that. So that sounds quite similar to PTSD to me, armchair psychologist over here. Katniss's mother also seems to completely disassociate when the father dies and is unable to care for herself, let alone care for Katniss and Prim. And so Katniss really takes on this motherly role, which, speaking as an eldest daughter, I have two younger sisters, we're already pretty much there. It doesn't take much for us to step into the parent figure, and especially, of course, when Katniss's mother just isn't there, as Katniss puts it. Katniss keeps saying, you can't disappear again, you have to be here for Prim when she gets called into Hunger Games. You can't leave. And I thought that was so powerful because, like, I've seen that in real life when people are struggling and going through things. It's like they're just vacant. Like, they're there in body, but they're not there. There's like, the lights are on, but no one's home kind of vibe. And I just thought that was really, really powerful. And just the way, trauma and shock and all of these things are dealt with. I just think, for me personally, I just thought it was a really good depiction and a really realistic depiction of these things, as much as it can be in, a YA dystopian novel. Another thing, while we're on all the sad topics, Rue's death absolutely breaks me. And I know it's coming, and it does it every time I watch the films. I know it's going to happen, and I try and brace myself, and nothing seems to quite prepare me. My heart just gets ripped out over and over again. It is so freaking sad. If you ever want to make me cry, just bring up Rue's death, because I just can't deal with it. I was sobbing to the point where my husband actually took a video of me, which was so kind of him, reading the book. Literally tears come down my face. He literally sent me the video and he was like, "You okay, hun?" I was like, no, I'm not okay. I'm really, really not okay. And I think what sent me over the edge, and we don't get this in the film, I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen in the film, but correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it does. After Rue's death, and Katniss, obviously makes quite a scene, or not makes a scene, she gives Rue a sort of ceremony, decorates her with flowers and sings to her and all that kind of stuff. After all that, Rue's district sends Katniss bread from their district. Katniss is never sure whether it was meant for Rue and they just didn't want it to go to waste, or if they are sending it to her as a thank you for giving Rue so much respect and being her ally. But that really sent me over the edge for some reason. Like when she got the parcel of bread, I was like, oh, they've sent her bread. It's just too much. It's too much. Suzanne Collins did not have to go that hard. So yeah, I loved that, and it was so poignant even on a reread, even though I knew it was coming. Another interesting thing that we don't see in the films, or we do see them in the films, but they're not really talked about, is the Avoxes. So these are people that have been disloyal or betrayed the capital, traitors of the capital in some way that the capital have captured. Instead of just killing them or imprisoning them, they cut out their tongues and use them as servants. And these people are then referred to as Avoxes. We see them in the background of certain films, like the Hunger Games films, but they're never really addressed, from my memory anyway. But in the book they are, because Katniss actually recognises one of them who is like serving her before she goes into the games, and she feels really bad because this is a girl that she could have, well, in Katniss's mind, she thinks she could have intervened and perhaps helped this girl at the time when she was trying to escape the capital, but she didn't, and the girl got taken and got her tongue cut out. It's just so savage. Like, when I was reading the book again, I was like, this is young adult, like, this is YA fiction, this does not pull any punches, this goes hard. Maybe they just didn't have time to fully dive into that in the film. I know you can't do everything, you know, but I just thought that was really interesting, reading about the Avoxes again. So yeah, another thing that I don't think the film like dove into or really addressed, at the end when it's, you know, Katniss and Peeta, and there's like one, I can't remember his name, Cato, they're the three last tributes left to battle out at the cornucopia, and the capital sends in the mutations, the mutts as they're called, and these are these big, like, mean looking, like, muscly dogs, and in the film that's kind of all they are. They're just meant to be these scary kind of animals, to spice things up a bit and I think make the end a little bit quicker. But in the book, which I completely forgot about, these mutts, these mutations are actually in some way like genetic reincarnations of the fallen tributes, and Katniss even notices at one point that the mutts have like the tributes' eyes and hair, and I was like, whoa. Like, Miss Collins, are you okay? How do you come up with these things? That is barbaric, and just again goes to show like how evil the capital is. And I was just like, okay, we've really gone there. But yeah, so I don't think that's clarified in the film, but yeah, in the books they are literally, they have the fallen tributes' eyes. My dog's dreaming. Micah was having dreams there. That was so cute. Anyway, I think those are all my notes from my Hunger Games rereads. As I said, I absolutely adore this book and this series in general. So let me know your thoughts on it. If you've read The Hunger Games or if you've just seen the films, let me know what you think. Or if you're interested in reading the books now after hearing me talk about them. If you've reread them recently and you have any other observations, I would love to hear it in the comments below. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!